I do not know what they watched. I did not see it. We were not allowed to watch. We had to stand on our spot backstage. So it sounded like they really liked it, which is really, really exciting. I saw the title card, which looked great.
Hollywood is buzzing after Jenna Ortega was picked to play Snow White. With Zegler in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons, Disney decided to make a big change. So why isn't Rachel Zegler the fairest of them all anymore? Could Jenna be the hero this fairy tale needs? Or is this just the start of even more drama? Rachel Zegler's dream role and a shocking twist. Rachel Zegler, from the moment she was a little girl, always had this big dream. And it wasn't just any dream, it was the dream for any Disney fan. She wanted to be Snow White. I mean, what little girl doesn't grow up watching Disney movies, singing along to all those classic songs, and picturing herself in those magical worlds, right? Rachel was no different. She practically lived and breathed Disney. The theme parks, the movies, the characters, she adored it all. And landing the role of Snow White? That was her ultimate goal, like a dream come true. When Disney announced that Rachel was going to be the next Snow White, she must have been on cloud nine. Everyone was talking about how perfect she was for the role. I mean, she already had this charming Disney princess vibe, and she just seemed to get the magic of it all. People were excited. It seemed like a perfect match. But as we know, things don't always go as planned. What seemed like the role of a lifetime for Rachel suddenly started to unravel. It all started when she made some comments during an interview that didn't sit right with a chunk of Disney's diehard fans. You know how passionate people can get about their Disney princesses. They want things to stay true to the classic tales they've loved for years. And sometimes they don't like it when actors or directors bring in a new perspective. Rachel, being honest and outspoken, said some things that rubbed people the wrong way. Maybe she didn't mean any harm, but it was enough to stir up some controversy online. But she really said that ignited the storm? When a reporter asked, "You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?" She bluntly responded, "I just mean it's no longer 1937. In another interview, she boldly added, "The original cartoon was made 85 years ago, and it's extremely outdated." She didn't stop there. She fired back, "I'm sure a lot of people will assume it's a love story just because we cast a guy as the prince. But she's not dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be." And the shocking part, she even threw shade at the classic love story, pointing out that the prince literally stalked her. Disney made a shocking announcement that they were recasting Snow White. Can you believe that? All the buzz, all the hype, and then suddenly Rachel was out. Just like that. And who do they bring in? None other than Jenna Ortega. Yep, the girl who's been blowing up recently with her roles in shows like Wednesday. She's got that edgy, mysterious vibe going on, which is totally different from the traditional image of Snow White. Naturally, this move sparked all kinds of questions. Why did Disney make such a sudden decision? Was it really because of Rachel's comments? Or was there something else going on behind the scenes? Some people thought Disney was just trying to play it safe, trying to avoid any backlash from the fan base. Others speculated that maybe Rachel's vision for Snow White wasn't quite lining up with what Disney wanted. Either way, it was a shocking twist that no one saw coming. But here's the thing. Jenna Ortega stepping into the role? That's huge. I mean, she's already made a name for herself in completely different kinds of roles. She's got this dark, intense energy about her, and now she's going to play Snow White, of all characters. It's definitely an interesting choice, right? Snow White is sweet, kind, and innocent. Basically, the polar opposite of the kind of roles Jenna's been known for. People are definitely curious to see how she'll make the character her own. Will she bring a new, modern edge to the role? Or will she stick with the classic Disney princess style? There's a lot riding on this, especially since Snow White is one of Disney's most beloved stories. It's a big deal to take on a role that so many people have loved for decades. Jenna's fans are excited to see what she'll bring to the table. After all, Snow White is practically sacred in the world of Disney, and any major changes to her character could spark even more controversy. And let's not forget about Rachel in all of this. It's got to be tough for her, watching this dream role slip through her fingers after all the excitement. Some of her fans are still rallying behind her, saying she didn't deserve to lose the role over a few comments. Others think Disney made the right call. It's a mixed bag, and the whole situation has definitely got people talking. This shows that the entertainment industry can be unpredictable. One moment, you're at the top, and the next things can shift in ways you'd never expect. Rachel Zegler's story is one that's probably going to stick with people for a while, especially as we see how Jenna Ortega takes on the challenge of bringing Snow White to life. Will she be able to step into those iconic shoes and win over the fans? Or will the recasting decision leave people wishing they'd stuck with Rachel? What's Rachel Zegler's next move? Is she going to disappear from the spotlight, or will she issue a full-blown apology? The Snow White apology and PR impact. Ever since the Snow White backlash set the internet on fire in the last half of 2023, it was clear that Disney was scrambling. They had poured hundreds of millions into this movie, not to mention the fact that Snow White is the story that literally built Disney into what it is today. So, their first big move? Delay the movie by an entire year, reshoot a ton of scenes, and tweak parts of the story. But after months of radio silence, Rachel Zegler suddenly reappeared, what many fans dubbed as her Snow White apology tour. And let's just say, people noticed a massive shift in how she talked about the movie. She wasn't as bold, not as fiery. Now, I know this is old news to most of you, but here's where things get wild. In just the past few days, it looks like the Save Snow White mission is still going strong. Rachel Zegler once again spoke out in a fresh interview, this time clearly speaking on behalf of Disney. And get this, she's practically apologizing for the changes they made to the fairy tale. It's like Disney is in full damage control mode, trying to patch up the mess they created. Will it work though? On the other hand, when Jenna Ortega suddenly got cast as Snow White, it wasn't just some quiet little decision that slipped under the radar. No, it set off a massive wave of conversation online. I mean, people had opinions, and they were sharing them everywhere. On Twitter, Instagram, you name it. Some were completely shocked by the decision, while others were like, okay, let's see what Jenna can do with this. But the thing that really stirred the pot was how it all went down. Rachel Zegler had been the original Snow White, and for a while it seemed like she was set for the role. Everything was moving forward, and then bam, she was out. It wasn't just a simple recasting. Her departure came after she offended certain fans. And when the backlash started, well, things escalated quickly. People began speculating left and right about why Disney decided to make the change. Was it really about the comments, or was there something deeper going on behind the scenes? The real question, though, is how all of this will affect the movie itself. Changing the lead actress midway through production, especially in such a public way, has definitely shifted the spotlight onto the casting rather than the actual film. Fans are curious, but they're also worried. Will Jenna's version of Snow White live up to expectations, or will the change cause people to lose interest? After all, there's a lot of pressure that comes with taking on a role like this. But the real story of that princess is all about finding herself and becoming a boss lady. It's a bold move for sure, but it tracks with Disney's aim to modernize the 1937 classic. Let's face it, back then, women didn't have the power and independence they do today, so Disney's shaking things up. But does it sit well with everyone? Honestly, not so much. Sure, Zegler has a point that the original Snow White didn't have much going on, besides being sweet and dodging her murderous stepmother. But let's cut her some slack. Political ambition probably wasn't top of mind when you're running from poison apples. And Prince Charming? Whether he's a lovesick stalker or just a guy with a soft spot for musical ladies, at least he's got good taste, right? Still, not everyone's enchanted by these updates. In fact, the backlash is louder than Sleeping Beauty's alarm clock. David Hale Hand, son of the original Snow White director, is one of the most vocal critics. He's convinced that if his dad and Walt Disney were still around, they'd be rolling in their graves over the changes. The rise of Jenna as a new Snow White. Now, when Jenna Ortega stepped into the role, it felt like the entire internet was on high alert. Everyone wanted to know how she was going to handle it, especially since she's known for playing darker, edgier characters. I mean, Jenna Ortega has been on fire lately. She's become one of those actresses who can pretty much do anything. But Snow White? That's a very different vibe from what we're used to seeing her do. You can imagine how fans felt. Some were super excited to see a fresh take on Snow White. They loved Jenna's past performances, especially in shows like Wednesday. and figured she could bring a new dimension to the character. Others, though, not so much. They were worried that Disney was straying too far from the classic version of Snow White, the one everyone's grown up loving. And let's be real, when you're messing with a character as iconic as Snow White, you're going to ruffle some feathers no matter what. Then there's the whole conversation about why Disney made this move in the first place. A lot of people felt like the switch from Rachel to Jenna was about more than just finding the right fit for the character. It seemed like Disney was trying to protect the film and avoid any controversy that could hurt its success, so they delayed the movie for necessary changes. The entertainment industry is all about reputation these days, and companies like Disney don't want to take any risks that might alienate their audience. So when Rachel's comments sparked a backlash, it wasn't too surprising that Disney wanted to make sure they were staying on safe ground. But still, the way it all happened left a lot of questions hanging in the air. As for the critics, they had plenty to say too. Some thought Disney made a smart move by bringing in Jenna Ortega. They saw her as a fresh face who could add something new to the story. But others thought the studio was being overly cautious, maybe even reacting too strongly to what could have been a temporary controversy. It's kind of tricky when you think about it. On one hand, they want to stay relevant and avoid any PR disasters. On the other, you can't help but wonder if they're giving in to online outrage a little too quickly. It's a fine line to walk. For Jenna, stepping into Snow White's shoes is a pretty big leap from the roles she's been known for. Sure, she's been killing it lately, but Snow White is a Disney princess. There's a specific kind of charm and innocence people expect from that character, and Jenna's more known for her edgier, darker style. That's not to say she can't pull it off. Jenna's got serious acting chops, but it's definitely a challenge, and it'll be interesting to see how she makes the role her own. PR expert Nick E. didn't hold back either. He pointed out that instead of embracing the iconic role of Snow White, Zegler seems determined to flip the script, but not in a way that's winning everyone over. The movie has morphed into what some are calling a woke story about a young woman with bigger ambitions than waiting for Prince Charming. It sounds progressive, sure, but not everyone's buying it, including critics like Matt Walsh. What's even more fascinating is how this whole casting drama could impact the film's reception. If Jenna does an amazing job, people might look back at this and think, wow, that was a great decision after all. But if it doesn't land well, that could spark a whole new round of debates about whether Disney made the right call. The stakes are high, and you can bet fans are going to be keeping a close eye on every little detail when the movie finally comes out. And of course, there's still the Rachel Zegler factor. Even though she's no longer attached to the project, her name is going to be tied to this whole situation for a long time. People are going to wonder what her version of Snow White would have been like, how she would have brought the character to life. And you know how the internet works, there's probably going to be some comparison between her and Jenna, whether it's fair or not. So basically, this whole thing just shows how complex and unpredictable Hollywood can be. One moment, you think everything's set in stone, and the next you're hit with a major shakeup. But that's what makes the entertainment industry so fascinating, right? You never know what's going to happen next. So, could Disney be ditching romance for power? Are beloved princesses now more about leadership than love? Is love losing its place in Disney? For decades, the message was clear. Love equals happiness. The classic princess story was all about finding your prince, getting married, and living happily ever after. It resonated with us because love is a big part of our lives. But now it feels like things are changing, especially with the new Snow White live-action remake. Rachel Zegler, who was cast as Snow White, is making it clear that this version isn't about waiting for a prince. Nope, she's all about leadership and taking charge. For some fans, that's a big change from what we've come to expect from a Disney princess. The original Snow White didn't just sit around waiting to be rescued. She was strong and kind, and had a whole forest of animals and the Seven Dwarfs by her side. That's leadership. But now it seems Disney is focusing more on power and independence, which leaves many feeling a bit disconnected from the magic of love that made the classic tales special. Sure, we've seen the rise of strong female characters in films like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, but does that mean we have to lose the heart of these stories? And let's face it, some Disney classics are loved for a reason. They gave us iconic songs like Someday My Prince Will Come and Hi Ho, tunes that are etched in our memories. These melodies remind us of a time when love was at the core of the stories. Now it feels like the focus has shifted more toward messages and less on that enchanting magic we've cherished for so long. But it doesn't end there. As Disney tried to modernize Snow White, they also brought back the Seven Dwarfs, though in a twist, they're portrayed by average-sized actors. This change, along with Rachel's comments about taking the role for money, sparked quite a debate. Fans are left questioning what happened to the passion and dedication that should come with such iconic roles. Is Hollywood now more about checking boxes than creating heartfelt stories? While it's great to see new takes on these tales, some fans worry that in the rush to innovate, the timeless charm of Disney's classics is getting lost. It seems like the new stories are all about finding your inner greatness and outshining everyone else, rather than learning from mentors or valuing humility. The wise characters who used to guide the young heroes are often ignored or made fun of in today's stories. This shift isn't just lazy storytelling, it's a worrying trend. It seems like Hollywood is obsessed with power, and in doing so, it's losing sight of the love and values that made these tales connect with us. Is it any wonder the Snow White trailer faced backlash? The audience craves stories that remind us of connection, compassion, and the beauty of love. As we move forward, let's hope Disney can find a balance between modern values and the classic magic that makes their stories unforgettable. After all, love isn't just a plot device, it's the heart and soul of storytelling, and we need to keep that alive. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more shocking updates on Hollywood news and the latest in pop culture. What do you think about Rachel Zegler and Jenna Ortega's roles in Snow White? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, keep dreaming and stay tuned for more exciting stories.